All right. Hello, everyone, and happy weekend. My name is Sean, and this is welcome to our first Oppia event of the year, which is a strategy meeting. So, for those of you who haven't attended one of these before, we try to regularly get we try to regularly get folks together so that we can talk a little bit about what our aims are and what we want to do during the year. And also, there is opportunity for question and answer. We'd be very happy to answer any of your questions, so please don't hesitate to ask them if you have any. We'll tell you about how to do that in a little bit. Next slide. So the agenda for today is I'm going to give a quick introduction and overview of the things that we'll be doing this year. And then we'll move over to some updates from selected teams. We have a lot of teams in Oppia, probably something like 15 to 17, so we can't tell everyone present in this one. But we will have Ben presenting for the mobile app, Akshay presenting for the Learn and Create Experience team, and Diana presenting for the Growth team. After that, we'll have a Q&A, and we really welcome your questions. We want to leave enough time for them. So please ask us stuff or let us know if you have any suggestions about whether there's anything else we should be doing or whether we are doing the wrong things. And we'll talk about it. Next, please. So this is the questions link. It's on an app called Slido. So if you go to this link, this URL, which we should paste in chat, you'll find that there's a place where you can type in a question, and I think you can upvote questions as well. So after we finish the presentations, we'll take the questions in descending order of upvotes and try to get to as many as we can. So we recommend that you ask questions early or as they come to you. Don't wait. You don't have to wait till the Q&A session begins. You can start asking them now. The link is already live. If you have any problems, let us know in the live stream chat. And then, speaking of the live stream chat, next slide, please. There is a chat. So if you have any issues hearing us or seeing the presentation or can't find the Slido link or have anything you want to say, feel free to let us know over here as well. We are monitoring this chat. The presenters are taking a look at it. So we'll try to get back to anything that we see there. All right, so now that all the logistics are out of the way, let's talk a little bit about what we are going to do in 2020. So, Oppia's mission is to provide high-quality education to those who lack access to it. We have a special emphasis on those who lack access to it, because what we want to do is to make sure that we reduce the divide between students who are underserved and students who are more well-served. And so it's really important for us that the lessons we create and the methods of delivery for them work really well for all students, not just a small select group of students. In order to do this, we have to create lessons, we have to make sure that the lessons are good and that they are effective and that students enjoy them. And we've also got to make sure that students around the world know all about the lessons so that they know that it's a resource that they can use. And I will be talking a little bit more about that when we talk about it. What I'm going to do in this quick overview is to run through 3 or 4 big projects that we are doing in 2020. This is not a full representation of everything that we'll be doing in 2020, but it's some of the major things and some of the key cornerstones of our strategy. Next slide, please. So one of our first big projects this year is we would like to complete the basic mathematics curriculum. We've been working on this for a little while, and we've been doing studies and creating lessons to make sure that the way we are teaching is effective and that students find it enjoyable. The good news is that a lot of students actually do like the lessons. They love that they relate to their daily lives and that they are told via stories because that makes the lessons actually relatable rather than something that comes from outer space and they are not sure why they learn it. So the reason we are making a full curriculum rather than some isolated lessons is because that's actually really important for students who don't have any support whatsoever. They need something where we can tell them if you learn all of this, you will be able to master at least basic mathematics. And that's actually something that's very meaningful in a lot of different contexts because there's more than half the students, more than 50%, 60%, I think, of students in the world have issues with mastering basic numeracy and arithmetic. So that's pretty important. So we are planning to do about 14 lessons or so, 14 or 15 topics, and we hope to complete most of these lessons by probably the next couple of months, 2 to 3 months. But we need to also add other things like questions and skills and so on to them, not just the stories, and actually we'll tell you a bit more about that later. Next slide. Now, one of the most important things as well is to think about the delivery of the lessons. Currently, Oppia has a web app at oppia.org. Students can and have played the lessons there. However, in our research, we've actually found that a lot of students around the world don't have access to good internet, and many of them don't even have desktops or laptops. So they usually have some sort of access to an Android device. It's not their own necessarily. It may be belonging to a family member or a relative. And we are therefore trying to create an Android app that supports many people using the same phone, because that's just the situation in these places. And that also supports offline use of the lessons, so that you can download the lessons, you can play them offline, and you can learn even though you don't have a persistent internet connection. So this slide shows some screenshots of the Android app, and Ben will be talking about this in a little bit. The next project I want to talk about is the contributor dashboard. Next slide, please. And the contributor dashboard is a mechanism that allows other people to submit questions or translations of voiceovers or art and perhaps other things too in the future to lessons as they are being developed. Because one thing we've realized is that if you actually want to make a good lesson that is effective for students, you actually need a lot of different types of expertise to come together. We know this because we have tried to create lessons in easier ways and found that they fail for one reason or another, in either engaging with students or helping them master the knowledge that they need to. So translations, for example, are very important because many students don't have English as a first language, and so being able to understand things in their native language or the language they speak at home, which may be different from the language that they learn stuff in at school, that's actually really important for comprehension, because in some countries the students can't even understand their textbooks. And so what we're trying to build is a contributor dashboard that streamlines this process of making it possible for anyone around the world to help out with questions and text and translations and voiceovers and so on. Currently we do this somewhat manually, but we really want to help everyone get a chance to be involved, similar to how Wikipedia operates as well. We hope that with this, the lessons will become better and better over time, and will help benefit more and more students over time as they become more useful to larger numbers of students. And then finally, I want to talk about one more big project, which is the improvements tab. And so, next slide. Yeah. So in the exploration editor at the moment, you know that there are ways to actually create a lesson and view some statistics about it and so on. One of the things we want to focus on a lot is really good lessons. And so this year, we are going to be building an improvements tab that shows creators, here are the issues that are going on with your lessons. Here's where the drop-offs are happening. Here are the places where students are getting stuck and frustrated. And to try and make it as easy and streamlined as possible for creators to just act on this and improve the lesson within a matter of minutes of checking the dashboard, so that the lessons continually improve and get better over time and catch more student misconceptions and so on. So we really want to get to the point where we have the best lessons on the internet, right? Really, really good lessons that actually help students learn concepts and actually master things. So with that brief overview of the projects that we are doing in 2020, and like I said, there are lots more, I'm going to turn it over to Ben, who's going to talk a little bit about our plans for the Android team.
Okay, thanks, Sean. Next slide, please. So I want to be talking for a few minutes about specifically, it's also kind of an overview of the specifics of what the Android team is working on and what we've accomplished over the last year. Next slide, please. So first I want to talk about last year. At the moment, Oppia is only available on via web browser. We only have one front end. We haven't built another one before. And so the biggest challenge of 2019 that we had to accomplish was trying to figure out how to actually build a mobile version of Oppia. So about early last year on May, we started working on this project, and by the end of summer, we had a product plan and mocks and a strategy in place. And in August, we actually started building the technical infrastructure. And by the end of the year, we had a functioning prototype. The purpose of the prototype was to ensure that the core technology that we needed to support, i.e. explorations, questions, topics, and so on, would work in a way that makes sense on mobile and is usable. But beyond that, we also needed to capitalize on making sure that mobile-specific features worked well. For example, multiple profiles and offline play. These are not features that exist on Oppia Web right now, so there were some new uncharted waters in figuring out both the product strategy and the technical side of these. And I'm happy to say that by the end of 2019, we did build a working prototype of the app. It is available on our Oppia Android GitHub repository, free to build it and try it out if you'd like. Next slide, please. Now, as far as moving forward, 2020 strategy, our 4 main goals for this year are 1, finishing the core functionality to a degree of high fidelity. And what this means is taking those features that I mentioned and making sure that they're really well polished and ready for users to actually use them. It also involves introducing some additional functionality that we didn't deem essential for the prototype, but will be necessary for people to actually practically use the app. It also involved, another goal for 2020 also includes stabilizing the code base and making sure that it's available for external contributors. Building an app as quickly as we did leaves the code base being a little rough around the edges, and we want to make sure that it's in a place that people can just come and contribute just like Oppia proper. Third, we need to prepare the Oppia backend for supporting a new front end. A lot of what's built into our front end at the moment is very web focused. Although that works at the surface for an Android app, one of the big constraints that we have to work around is that we're building an app that needs to survive for potentially years without people upgrading to a newer version, which means we have to build our backend in a way that's actually resilient to the same client using it for years after we release a feature. That's quite new, and we're going to have to figure out a way to do that effectively. And fourth, and probably the most important goal on this list, is we want to make sure the app gets shipped to alpha and beta audiences to get people to use it and actually make sure it works. As far as moving on and going for 2021, we want to ship the app next year, early 2021. Second, we want to perform a longer user study. So we've done some studies in the past about how effective Oppia can be for teaching certain subjects. We'd like to see how that works across a longer audience and specifically on mobile, given that so many of our students that need this platform can only use it on mobile. We want to make sure that mobile can really deliver on the experience. And third, we want to drive up app adoption after release. Next slide, please. So the specific items for achieving the 2020 plan. One of the things that we did early this year was shift the team over to developing features vertically instead of horizontally. Before we had the team split into two, one half focusing on service level work and one half focusing on UI. Now features are being developed more holistically, so features are actually owned by a single person instead of being split up. This is helping us organize things a bit better and also lets us finish up and round out the rest of the features that we deemed not important for the prototype. Second, I mentioned this earlier, but opening the code base to external contributions is really important. There's a lot that we need to get done, and we need as many people to help as possible. The third is we really need to stay focused. I mentioned that there's a lot to do. It's easy to kind of get sidetracked and want to implement the next cool Android thing or another mobile feature. There's a ton of things we could do, but we really need to get this out as quickly as possible. This is an important problem to solve. We need to make sure that the things that are important get done first and well. And the last part is getting as quick early feedback as possible on the app. We want to move into an alpha very soon, in the next few months, and a beta later in the year. And the purpose of these is to get user feedback and make sure it works. For those of you who are interested, the team structure is listed on the right. Feel free to contact any of these people, especially me, if you have questions about our plan, if you want to help contribute. Again, we need as many people as possible, so if you're willing to help, please talk to me. I really appreciate it. As you can see, there's some high-level team efforts around dev workflow patterns for productionization that's completely open at the moment. We know what work we need to do here, but we don't know who's going to be working on it yet. So if any of these things seem interested, or you're just like, I want to help out on the internet, please feel free to follow. And now, I believe we're going to be talking about the learner-creator experience.
Yeah, so hi, I'm Akshay. I'm for the learner and creator experience. That's it. Yeah, so in 2019, our main accomplishments were that we released our editors for your new learning website, which are topic stories, skills, and questions. So I'll discuss more about that. I'll show a flow diagram. So currently, so these were created so that the writers can create a much more engaging learning experience for the student. Because before this, the only way for learning was through explorations and collections, which was a group of explorations. But we needed to have new structures to make the whole experience much more connected with each other. So the current relationship that we have done are as follows. So we have a skill, which is the most basic learning skill, which consists of a lot of questions of varying difficulty and test the skill. And then we have a topic which would be a very broad idea like fractions, ratios, and proportions. And this would be taught using stories. So stories would have multiple chapters in it, which would tell an entire story, and through that story we are aiming to teach a particular topic to a student. So, but if a student has already completed the stories and want to revisit the topic to, let's say, practice some questions from the topic, we have something called subtopics, which are just a group of similar skills which the learner can revisit and redo questions from just particular part without going through the entire story. And so these are the basic relationship between them, and we have completed the editors for this, so the creator team can start designing topic stories and all these things. And we have also created mocks for them for most of the view pages, and have already started implementation on it. So these were our main accomplishments in 2019. Next slide, please. And so this is awesome. Okay. Yeah, yeah. So this is the basic relationship between the data structures. So we have classroom at the top, which would be something like math or physics or something like that. So currently we are aiming for math, complete math right now. And each classroom would have a bunch of topics. Like math, then it would have fractions, ratios, and proportions, and other math topics like that. And a topic would have subtopics and stories, like I mentioned before. Stories would have chapters, which are just the current explorations, and subtopics would have skills, which would test the questions with very different. Yeah, so these are our current implementations for the classroom, which is the top right, and story, bottom left, and top bottom right pages. And we would be improving upon this based on user reviews and design pages, but these are our current purposes. Yeah, so for our main goal for 2020 is to release the first basic math curriculum implementing the new learning constructs mentioned previously, as well as to add more features to these new pages. So the current features to be added in the pipeline are to add skill mastery tracking, which will track the mastery level for a learner for a skill and increase the question difficulty for that skill based on that. So when a learner is revisiting the topic and taking review tests for a particular subtopic, we would increase the difficulty for the question if the learner has already mastered the skill. And also to add checkpoints to a lesson, so learner can pause and receive the checkpoint. This is not present right now, so this is something which would be very useful even for the mobile app. So we would like to add the backend for this and add the functionality for this. So our more long-term vision is to completely migrate all the curated learning in Oppia, which is currently right now done by curated explorations and connections, to using these new constructs, and also to a community contribution, as Sean mentioned earlier, for these new constructs. So instead of just having our own set of creators and topic managers creating these lessons, we would like to add community contributions. So even other users can suggest skills and recipes, which would be taken under review and then added to the topics. So these are our main goals for 2020 and near future. So, Yes, so currently our main plan for reaching our goal is to get user feedback on the various viewer pages and to work with designers to modify the viewer pages, add features, and to work with lesson creators to see what more features or UI changes they need to implement. And these are our team structure right now. You can let me know if you want more ideas on how we go. So yeah, that's a basic summary of the creator experience tool. Good.
Cool. Hi everyone. If you don't know me, my name is Naima Chen. I am the lead for the growth team, which is just generally our team that's focused on marketing and outreach within the Oppia Foundation. I'm going to be talking a little bit, just a general overview of what our team does, our accomplishments from last year, and then also for the near future. So for our 2019 accomplishments, actually before 2019, the growth team wasn't a team. So that was actually one of the very first things we were able to do was actually start building up this team and really building out a foundation for what marketing and outreach looks like for the Oppia Foundation. And a lot of our focus before 2019 was on building out these really effective, really awesome lessons. But I think like with this team now, we'd really love to just be able to expand upon that and really make sure that this is that the programming that we do actually gets like the kind of awareness and impact that we would like to see in the world. And so in that process, we've done a lot of things. We've spun up an analyst team that has been able to complete 5 different analyst reports that are all deep analyses about different parts of the organization or about our platform related to user behavior, a little bit on retention, and some stuff on marketing and outreach as well. We've also revamped our Google Ads, which haven't been touched for a couple of years. And so we saw a definitive increase in the engagement and the traffic that came from that as well. And we also were able to revamp our blog, which also hadn't been touched in a little while. And so you may have seen some of our emails, mainly mine probably, about some of our volunteer highlights. And we'd really love to do more of those. So if anyone is interested or wants to talk about their experience in Oppia, definitely feel free to let me know. We'd love to talk with you. But one of the most exciting things is we were able to start up a team that's focused really more on like local outreach. We found that there's actually a lot of interest from people around the world to bring Oppia to their local communities, and they'd love a really tangible way to help, but they don't always feel like they necessarily have the skills or the time necessary to be able to be a developer, for example, or to be like a team lead. But some of the really great ways that people can get involved is just by bringing the app or the platform to people in their community, like parents or teachers. And so, for example, we were able to send James, one of our volunteers, through the Google Summer of Code program to Ghana, where he was able to hold a 2-day seminar with a group of very interested teachers and from all over Ghana, and now they're actually working on becoming their own official nonprofit that can bring Oppia to students around the country, especially in certain key regions where they feel like the students can benefit most from it. And I think these are just like some of the highlights. These aren't everything that we've been able to work on, but this is just like some of the key things that I think were really awesome to kind of call out as to stuff that we've been working on. But now looking forward, we do have a full strategy doc. I think we'll be sending out this presentation, so if anyone is interested, they can feel free to look over it. But basically, this is just generally the team structure, and I'll be going further into like what each of these teams will be working on. But basically, we have our analytics team, which is filled with a small group of analysts who are working on these data-derived reports that I mentioned earlier. We have our local outreach team, which is focused on everything related to these like local partnerships. Anyone interested in doing kind of localized work, any individual volunteers who are also interested in conducting user studies, that type of work will all fall under local outreach, especially those things that relate to more like people-to-people support. And then the digital outreach team, which is focused mainly on things related to all of our like branding and presence online. So things like our social media, our blog, anything related to like our ads. Those are all going to fall under digital outreach, and we actually have a really awesome person who's been working on a lot of this marketing strategy over the past couple of months. His name is Daniel. He is actually an intern through the Outreach Youth program, So it's really awesome that he's been able to work with us, and he's been really dedicated at trying to do a bunch of research and experimentation and figure out what exactly we want to do in this area. And it's really exciting getting to see all the stuff that he's working on. And then falling under all of that, there's like this just like umbrella team, which is going to be working with all the leads for the team. At the most part, right now, it's mostly me and Daniel, and then Sean also helping with consulting. But this team kind of encompasses just generally how we feel we want the branding and the strategy to look for the team as a whole. And so that's going to come with like the coming together of all these different teams to figure out what exactly that looks like. So for the coming years, like the vision for this year and for next year, we do have a few key goals. I'm not going to go through everything, but I think some main things to point out. On the analytics team, their main focus is on being able to bring some really tangible data-based recommendations or projects to all of the other teams throughout the organization. It's not just within the growth team. So if any of your teams or if any of the projects have any really interesting data-based questions, or you're just not really sure what to go with, and you feel like data could help in that way, I think our team is really open to hearing your questions and your suggestions, and we'd really love to build out really tangible projects around those questions based off of their work. So I'm just leaving this invitation open, and if you all have any ideas for questions, we definitely have that open on the table. Digital outreach is working on a lot of different things. One of the potential projects is bringing in the blog into our oppia.org website. That probably won't happen until the latter part of the year. That's something that we really love to bring in, just to have all of our content in place. And then for local that aren't necessarily formal organizations. Like that Ghana group, for example, is only about a dozen people who are just really interested in bringing stuff to their local communities, but they weren't necessarily like a pre-established nonprofit. And we're finding those people can tend to be very passionate, very resilient. So we're just trying to find the best ways that we can support them. And so we're focusing more on this one-on-one support system and really working closely with them to help establish their strategy. And then from there, we'll scale up and figuring out how we want to do that on the longer term. The other thing is we're also working on building on a more robust user study system so that we can conduct user studies all over the world with interested volunteers. So for things like the Android app or just for the current platform as it is, we're working on making sure that we're continually getting like a pipeline of feedback and that we're acting on that feedback from students or facilitators themselves. And then for the growth team leads, there's a lot of different stuff related to strategy, potential things we want to experiment with. But I think one of the other things I want to point out is that we'd really love to integrate the foundation website into the oppia.org website, which is an interesting information architecture problem. But I think will be really great in order to make sure that everyone can find all the information that they want to know about Oppia on one website rather than two, as that can be a little bit confusing for some people. And so I'd love to pass it over. At the moment, she's not here due to some kind of internet instability issues, but she did take the time to make us a YouTube video. This is Yamama. She is another intern from the Outreach Youth Program. She's done amazing work over the past couple of months in conducting user studies, but also thinking about a local outreach plan in Palestine. So I won't talk too much, but this is kind of her talking about her experience within the local ones. Let me know if this doesn't play with the sound. I'm not exactly sure how this will work. Oh, nope, it doesn't work. Okay. Let me see. Here, what I'm going to do is, the link is in the presentation. I will also add it in here into the chat. So let's see if it'll work. But basically, this video is supposed to be about Yamuna describing her experience working with us. So basically, since February, she's been working with us, and she basically, I'll talk over it. But basically, you all can feel free to watch over the video. It's 2 minutes long. so it's really not that long, but these are just some images from some of the work that she's done. Pretty much over the past couple of months, she's been working with some local nonprofits. She was able to secure a center, and she's also been really great in that she's now trying to work with some local refugee camps to be able to expand upon the work that we're doing with these user studies and bringing all these things together. And on top of doing all these user studies, by the way, she's been doing a bunch of work doing our voiceovers and translations into Arabic, which has also brought up some interesting feedback related to like right to left languages, the ways that we can try to address some of the issues that are kind of unique to that language, and that has really helped us immensely to better figure out how we can create a platform that is truly accessible for all languages and all populations. So again, definitely encourage you all to watch the video of Yamama talking about her own experience, but definitely wanted to highlight her and her work as like an example of the types of things that we're doing with this. Okay, so I've talked enough. I'll now pass it back over to you, Sean.
Okay. So you've heard from our Android app team, our Learn and Create Experience team, and our Grow team. But as I mentioned, there's 15 to 17 teams in Oppia, and in fact, let's cover all of them. We've got folks working on the lessons themselves, we've got folks working on voiceovers, better through analytics, improving contributor experience. We are also trying to improve the speed of the website. It's a bit difficult because now we've got a couple of systems with the old Angular and the new Angular, and so that's causing some issues, I think, with speed. But we are trying to do a number of infrastructure migrations to simplify things. In addition, we are trying to streamline operations and improve the way we manage data on the server, so that everything on the server gets validated. We also want to try and make the contributor experience more smooth and the developer experience more streamlined, so that there's no friction and that it's easy to work on the project. So these are some of what the other teams are focusing on. I think the Oppia community of around 100 people all over the world. Many folks from many different countries, India, the United States, various places in Africa, and Europe as well. And this wouldn't be the project it is today without the efforts and the support of all of you. So I also want to say a very big thank you on behalf of the folks who are helping to, run the team and make sure everything stays in order. So yeah. Hopefully this gives you some idea of what this presentation gives you some idea of what we plan to do in 2020. We really want to get the app out because that's going to reach such a large number of people. We really want to finish our basic math curriculum because that is a very good step towards creating more lessons on other topics that are similarly good, that can help a large number of students. And we want to do what we can to make it easy for people to contribute in whatever way they would like to, because there is, it's a very nice way to volunteer and help out. That doesn't necessarily take a lot of time, and it's something that's very fulfilling as well. So, all right, I think we are now at a time for questions. So, reminder, we have a questions link. It's on the Slido. It's on the Slido page. Could we go back to slide number 3, I think? Yeah, so please ask questions here. Otherwise, we have nothing to answer, which is also fine, but it's more fun answering questions. And we would be happy to try and respond in detail to any of them. So that's a chance.
Okay, so currently we have 2, so I'll just walk through that. The first one is for Ben. The question is, could you clarify what do you mean by opening the code base to external contributors? Isn't the code base already open?
Yeah, I'm happy to clarify about that. I can see why the wording I did was a bit confusing. So the Android app's code base is open source, but the distinction that I'm making here is it's not quite ready for just anybody to go in and effectively contribute. Sean mentioned this notion of having less friction earlier. It's a similar idea on the Android project. Because we develop things quickly and to get a prototype working, there are some things that take some considerable amount of time to learn, and we want to bridge the gaps. We want to have better wiki support, better team structure support, so that there aren't as many bottlenecks when contributing. It's clear how to get onboarded. I mean, we're welcome for people to come in and try to contribute, but each additional person puts some burden on the team right now because only a few people can kind of mentor. So what I mean by opening the code base is really making it more self-service, having all the structure in place so that people can get onboarded and effectively contribute without key people on the team having to help them out. Hopefully that helps clarify. Otherwise, I'm happy to provide any more context if it helps.
Thank you. Then I think that was. I think that's good. If not, you can add a follow-up question on the Slido itself, or leave a message in the chat, and we can help clarify further. The second question is from Ben, and I think it's to Diana. So that he says the 2020 growth strategy is to be known within 5 specific countries versus 2021's top 5 countries per a list. Do these 5 countries overlap or are they different?
This is a good question. So basically, we have done a little bit of a language and kind of opportunity analysis for that list. And while a lot of the countries on there are somewhat overlapping with the ones that we listed the specific ones primarily because we already have like pre-established partnerships or local advocacy groups within them. And so they aren't necessarily like the top opportunity ones based off of that kind of initial analysis. So I think like the primary differentiation here is like we would like to get what we're doing already down really well, and then let's expand beyond that. And there's a little bit of overlap, but I think like the next like top ones besides the ones that we have listed there are like Nigeria, Uganda, Kenya, and Zimbabwe. And maybe this is like a clarification in there where it could be like the next top 5 like opportunity areas that we see. But I think it's like for this year, I think a lot of what we're building on is like let's build on what we already have and do that to the point that we feel confident we can scale up there. So that's kind of the differentiation. Hopefully that helps.
Cool. Yeah, that's last question I had. So if anybody has more questions, please do answer. And if you don't have any more questions, I think we'll wait for 5 minutes and then we can end the stream.
Well, one thing I do want to say in the meantime is to say thank you very much to Diana and Nitesh for organizing this live stream and having to figure out all the technical issues. So thank you very much, and please also look forward to more events in the future. We will try to do our best to keep the community updated and probably have things, events for special things like Summer of Code and so on.
Thank you.
We still welcome your questions.
Okay, I think we can go ahead. If there are any more questions, we shall be circulating a feedback form. So if you have any questions, suggestions, or improvements to our events, then you can write them down in the Google form. I shall be just sharing the link in the chat. and we'll also send an email at the end with the with the Google form and slides. So yeah, uh, thank you all for attending, and look forward to seeing you in future events too. uh, Sean, you want to say something?
No, nothing more than just saying thank you all very much to the presenters and to the attendees. And please tell us if in future there's anything else you want to know about or any events you'd like us to put on, and we'll be happy to organize it.
Yeah, this was the
Thank you.
first time we changed our streaming infrastructure. So if you have any comments or was the audio fine, was the video fine? If you have any suggestions, please do write them down so that we can improve our future events. Thank you.